Hello everyone! So this is going to be my review of Suicide Squad, the summer blockbuster, I guess you would say. Before I went to this movie, I had heard that it got bad reviews, but that did not deter me at all from going to see it because I've been looking forward to seeing this movie for at least a year. So I was like, I don't care, I'm going anyways because, I don't know, I just knew that I was going to like it. And I did really like it, and I really don't understand the bad reviews. I think their bad reviews are really petty and unappreciative of this awesome movie that they obviously worked really hard on and did their research for, and like this just phenomenal costumes. And like I mean, did someone pay these people to give bad reviews? Because I don't get it. And even the bad reviews by the fans, like once again, it's just like petty, nitpicky, like just trying to find bad things to say about it almost, or just being like way too critical and not seeing like the big picture and just not like chilling out and just enjoying the fucking badass movie. So I'm just gonna give like my basic review, and then I'm gonna talk about like something that really spoke to me a lot, which was how I found Harley Quinn kind of relatable. And I don't mean relatable in like a really superficial, like, you know, cosplay, fangirl type of stuff. Like, I mean, like what I mean when I say like relatable, I mean like the actual like mental illness part of it. I'll go over that in a minute, but just I'll go ahead and say that I thought the movie was really well done, and I'm really excited for the spin-offs. And like another complaint I saw on Twitter was like the movie was like a 2-hour long trailer or something like that. Like that was the style of the movie, was just like action packed. I mean, like people just didn't get it. There was a certain aesthetic to the movie and a certain like feel to the movie, and I thought it was badass, and I cannot wait for the spin-offs. The bad reviews just are so annoying to me, just like people not appreciating the work that went into this and like how good it actually is, and just like trying to find bad things about it or just being butthurt about nothing. So anyways, I thought it was an amazing movie. And like another thing about this movie that I think is really cool is it got me wanting to read comic books. And I feel like the only reason that I've never read comic books is because I was never like exposed to them. I don't want to blame it on sexism, but it probably had something to do with it. Like, you know, comic books were considered like a boy thing and not like something that girls would like to do, which I think we all know, if we're slightly socially aware at all, that it's not just something that's just for boys, that girls really like comic books too, and like comic book movies and all this other stuff. So I don't know, this movie really got me excited to read the comic books. And you know, I started watching some of the Batman cartoon series like way back when I first heard about this movie coming out, because I wanted to know more about Harley Quinn and the Joker and stuff like that. So I started watching the cartoon series. I don't remember, it was on some sort of website. Anyways, I started watching the cartoon series like over a year ago or more. I don't know. It was a really long time ago. And I was really into that. I don't think I finished it, unfortunately, because I got sidetracked. Margot Robbie and Jared Leto took a lot of their inspiration from that TV show, which I think is great because, I don't know, it's just so fun because the TV show was awesome. I'm so glad that they took that direction of a lot of it being based on the TV show. So now I'm going to talk about Harley Quinn. So first of all, when they first, you know, pan in on Harley Quinn and she's, you know, dressed in like kind of like torn up clothes, and she's hanging from the bars, like, and the way she's hanging from the bars and like has fabric wrapped around her and all of that stuff, like people might think like there's nothing significant about that, but it's actually really accurate to how I behaved when I was psychotic. And by the way, if you just stumble on this video, I have bipolar 1 disorder, and you know, I'm on medication now, so I haven't had any, you know, episodes in a really long time, but I did have a really bad episode where I ended up in the mental hospital, and they did a really good job basically with Margot Robbie and Harley Quinn in the movie. Okay, so yeah, so the way that her clothes are all ripped up, and how it was like wound around her body in real weird ways, like I did that same thing with like the strips of fabric. And and the need to hang from high places. Like I felt the need to like hang. So it wasn't just some sort of like movie thing. Like that is really how people can get when they are psychotic, which people don't understand unless they've gone through this. But maybe another person who has gone through a similar episode that I went through, maybe you experienced this too, but I don't know if anyone else experienced it, but I did. And I can just totally picture being in that exact same situation that she was in, like just unmedicated or not correctly medicated or just like so far gone, and being in like a cell like that and behaving like she was behaving. It was actually really, really accurate to having psychosis. And some people might not know that, but I know that from experience. And so yeah, like how she was bound in the fabric and hanging is totally something that would happen. And like even when my dad walked in on me, because they found me when I was having an episode, I was hanging from the chandelier. Like I was literally hanging off of the chandelier, which is so embarrassing, but you know, that's just how it was. And so like, yes, like hanging from the bars like that in there. Also the hypersexuality with Harley Quinn. So people might have been complaining about this. I'm not sure. I didn't really delve too far into the negative reviews, but the hypersexuality with Margot Robbie is also really dead on to symptoms of bipolar 1 disorder. So I went through that so much, like the hypersexuality that she displays in that movie. It's not fake, it's not made up. That's actual true to bipolar 1 disorder anyways, where you're like really hypersexualized, like you just want to fuck everyone. Just basically the way that Margot Robbie played the hypersexualization is dead on, like being really flirty and all that stuff, to the manic, to mania. I keep saying psychosis, but also mania. Harley Quinn did give a few mentions of like psychosis where she was like, are you guys seeing all this crazy shit? And then people were like, yeah, why? And she was like, because I'm off my meds. And I was like, totally, because like, yeah, when you have psychosis, you'll see things and hear things that aren't there. So yeah, and if she's not on her meds, then there is a risk that she would see and hear things. When Viola Davis's character, Amanda Waller, walks in Harley Quinn's cell when she first meets her, and Harley Quinn asks her if she's the devil, like that's really accurate too, because when you have psychosis, you have really weird delusions about the devil and stuff like that, and God and all this other stuff, like really religious, supernatural stuff. So when she asked her if she was the devil, very likely she was having some sort of psychotic episode where she was thinking about the devil, and then all of a sudden like the devil walks in and she's like, are you the devil? Like, you know, that wasn't just some stupid line that they threw out. Like that's actually really accurate to someone who's suffering from a mental illness, thinking that people are the devil and stuff like that. Oh yeah, another thing about the hypersexuality when, you know, or just being manic in general, where she starts undressing when they give the everyone their clothes to kind of like when they're, you know, making a deal with them to try and get them to, you know, cooperate or whatever, and they give them like a duffel bag with all their stuff, and Margot Robbie's character just undresses in front of everyone and puts her clothes on. Like I could totally relate to that because I did that exact same thing. So I was just like it totally hit home for me because I did that exact same thing when I was in the mental hospital, and even before I went to the mental hospital, just like undressing in front of people. Like I remember before I got to the hospital and I was having my manic psychotic episode, I was just walking down the street just taking my clothes off, like trying to like get down to, you know, basically the level of how Margot Robbie or Harley Quinn is dressed in the movie. Like basically the amount of clothes that Harley Quinn was wearing is basically the amount of clothes that a manic person feels comfortable with, at least if the weather is warm. I mean, when I was in the mental hospital, I wore like a really skimpy top with like the whole back torn out of it. Basically just did not want to wear a lot of clothing. And then as far as like the ripped fabric, I tore fabric from my clothes and would like wrap it around my feet and wrap it around my wrists in really weird ways. So yeah, so the way they portrayed Harley Quinn with like the fabric wrapped around her when she's in the mental hospital, and then also being very scantily clad, is so true to mania. When I got my clothes in the mental hospital, like once I got there, my parents or something dropped off some clothes for me, and once I got those clothes, I just started taking the clothes I was wearing off, like in front of whoever was around, and putting the other ones on, and like they got so mad at me. So like where she is like undressing in front of everyone, and then her being like, what? Like, what's the big deal? Like, I remember undressing in front of like a window, and like with the door wide open and just people can go around. The parts where like the prison guards mistreat her, I found that relatable too, because obviously it was worse in the movie because it's like really dramatic and all this stuff, but I can relate to being mistreated by the staff in the mental hospital because they were assholes, and they, you know, didn't care if they were making things worse or anything like that. I mean, obviously the doctors weren't like that, but the staff of the hospital, they were assholes. The staff would say mean things to people in there without caring at all that you heard. So they would just say like mean things like around you, and like just totally disrespecting you, like not thinking of you as a viable human being or anything. So just saying like really mean, rude things, like, you know, in earshot of you and like right in front of you, and it's just being like they just saw you as like the scum of the earth, and not like they didn't have any compassion or respect for, you know, the people in there. Okay, so also another thing I can relate to with Harley Quinn is her relationship with the Joker, and just being like a hopeless romantic and stuff like that. It's like checking her phone for the text messages from the Joker. Like I could really relate to that. Like just having like this really codependent relationship that she has with him. And I know later on that relationship becomes abusive. At least I'm pretty sure that happened in the comics and the TV show. It's like a codependent turned abusive relationship. So I can also relate to that. I've made a video about an abusive relationship I was in. I haven't made video about codependency yet, but I probably will at some point. But yeah, just like being like really overly invested in like your relationship to where it's unhealthy to some extent. I mean, I know like she thinks she's in love and they're like star-crossed lovers in this movie, but I'm guessing in the spin-offs it's gonna turn like really toxic and unhealthy. I mean, it's already toxic and unhealthy because the Joker basically fucked her up mentally. Like it's really his fault that she became mentally ill, which I could go so far as to blame the men in my life for fucking me up mentally, but I won't do that just to be politically correct. But yeah, I did find that whole aspect of it relatable as well, like her just being like, you know, really overly in love, I don't know, and codependent, and being with someone who is clearly to other people abusive and fucking her up, but her like not caring because she's like super in love. I'm hoping that, you know, Batman and Poison Ivy will help Harley Quinn in one of the spin-off movies. Oh yeah, and I hope that Sophie Turner plays Poison Ivy because that would be so cool. Anyways, also I'd like to say that, you know, people said that like Jared Leto was only in like 8 minutes of the movie. That's not true. He was in it, you know, a perfectly reasonable amount of time. I mean, the movie was focused solely on the actual Suicide Squad. It wasn't like, you know, the movie wasn't called The Joker, it was called Suicide Squad. And I thought he was in the movie just a perfectly appropriate amount of time. I know Jared Leto wasn't really happy about a lot of his scenes being cut, but I am not being overly critical. Like, I was pleasantly surprised with how much he was in the movie, and I thought he was still really hot even as the Joker, and I just thought it was awesome. And also there were just like a lot of hot men in this movie, so that was a bonus. Cara Delevingne and Margot Robbie are also really beautiful, and so basically they just picked really attractive people in this to play in this movie, and I don't know, I thought they portrayed mental illness and also being like an outcast to society, and just, you know, being on the fringes of society, not necessarily being normal. Oh, and another part that I related to about Harley Quinn is that she had a fantasy of having a normal life with her and the Joker, like getting married and having kids. That was like her little fantasy when the Enchantress got inside her head, and you know, her whole fantasy was that she would have a normal life, and then I can relate to that too, of like, you know, having a fantasy of having a normal life, but then she also says in the movie that people like us don't get normal, you know, we don't get to have normal. And also, like, the accurate portrayal of Harley Quinn really made me feel better about my mental illness, because it made me feel not so alone. And I know people on the internet all the time are telling me, like, you know, that my videos make them feel less alone. Well, Suicide Squad made me feel less alone. And, like, I don't know, like, they had their, like, the movie also had a lot of heart. Like, they had their little misfit family, and I don't know, I feel like I'm a misfit to society, and I can relate to having a mental illness very similar to Harley Quinn's, and just a lot of similarities that I have with her. Oh yeah, and another thing I forgot to mention is the song that they're playing when they're panning in on Harley Quinn. This song that they were playing when they first introduced Harley Quinn, I think there's like a new version, I guess, by it, but it's called You Don't Own Me, and it's a classic song, but I guess they remade it for this movie or something. But that song, I was actually like, I couldn't stop singing this song in actually a video that I posted kind of recently where I posted footage of a mixed episode in bipolar 1 disorder, and I cut out the part, like I edited out the part of me singing this song because I cannot sing, but it's like I was singing this song, which I think is the weirdest coincidence. Yeah, that song. Yeah, this song, it was in the movie. I can't like play the whole thing, but anyways, I was like singing that song in that mixed episode footage, but I edited it out because I can't sing and it sounded horrible. But I just thought that was such a weird coincidence that that's like her theme song, and that's also a song that I was singing in an episode I was having, so just kind of eerie coincidences. So I don't know, just the accurate portrayal of mental illness is probably one of the big reasons why I love this movie so much, but also it's just a good movie. Like, it's so fun to watch, and I saw it in 3D, and I just thought it was really good. And also, a lot of people were complaining about Cara Delevingne's character, Enchantress, and I didn't have a problem with that either. Like, I feel like people are just being overly critical. So I don't know, there are a lot of reasons why I really like this movie, and I'm really happy that they made this movie, and I thought it was really entertaining, and I really liked it in 3D. And I don't know, I think the criticisms of it are ridiculous. So I recommend the movie. At least I loved it, and I feel like if you don't love it, then, you know, you're being a little bit too hard on it, because it's a really good movie and I love it and I can't wait to see it again. So leave a comment down below for the other people who have bipolar disorder, especially bipolar 1 disorder, where you have psychosis like Harley Quinn does. Like, do you relate to this? Do you relate to the hypersexuality and her psychosis and her mania? So anyways, thank you guys so much for watching. Oh, and please follow me on my social networks. All the links are below. I had some Twitter drama recently, but not really. Just basically me talking way too much about my personal life on Twitter. So if you're interested in that, you should follow me on Twitter. But yeah, thank you again for watching, and leave a comment below about your thoughts on the movie and what you think about like the spin-offs, because I'm really excited for like the Harley Quinn movie, and I'm really hoping that it's gonna be just as good as this one. I just love this movie, and it's like my favorite movie this year, and I can't wait to see it again. But thank you again for watching, and I hope you'll have an awesome day. Okay.